Federal health care reform has passed, and now Pennsylvania and other states are pushing it to the courts. Let's see what's going on next on Behind the Headlines.
This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenawalt, Senior Fellow of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. And today as my co-host, Mara has the week off, but our other board member, Jere Strittmatter, has volunteered to step in and take her place. You're not quite as cute as Mara, Jere, but
thanks for saying that. Yes.
But you have a lot of experience. You have a lot of experience. Of course, you've done this with us many times, and appreciate you stepping in and filling in.
Happy to do it. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Jere. Today, you and I have the pleasure of talking to someone who's not only in state news, but someone who is in national news, and that is Pennsylvania's Attorney General Tom Corbett. General, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us on.
Well, it's very good of you to be here. We really appreciate it.
It's been a while since we've been on here.
Yes, and we've
years.
We've certainly been looking forward to your return, but we didn't anticipate that you would be returning with such a bang. You're on every news show from coast to coast, along with the Attorney Generals of, I guess it's 19 other states.
Well, it's 13 right now. The other 6 states will be joining in an amended complaint that will be filed next month, in the month of May.
Mm-hmm. But the question that we want to examine with you goes around, has to do with, of course, the health care reform bill passed by the Congress and signed by the Obama administration. And of course, we've talked about 10th Amendment issues here for some time, Jere, and talked about state sovereignty and states' rights as well. But this particular issue of the health care reform bill, you've filed suit on behalf of Pennsylvania, declaring it, in your mind, to be unconstitutional. Why did you join this lawsuit against the health care reform law?
Well, you're correct. We made a determination. I made a determination in reviewing the case law that's out there from the Supreme Court of the United States. And it's my opinion that the requirement that people have to buy insurance is violative of the Constitution of the United States. The federal government cannot make you buy something. It's that simple. The states, many of the states have been talking about this for quite a while. If you recall, back in December, we were looking at the health care bill and the provision for Nebraska that they would be exempted to the detriment of all other states, and we believe that to be unconstitutional. As you know, they've pulled that provision from the health care bill after they passed it in the reconciliation. So clearly they understood, in my mind, that they had something wrong with that bill. There were originally 13 states that joined in, including AGs from 13 states, including one Democrat AG, Buddy Caldwell from Louisiana, who agreed, and Florida had taken the lead in this and started drafting the litigation in this as we were looking at the Nebraska issue. When the bill was passed, we had a conference call, and we made a decision that we agreed with Florida. Florida filed the litigation and included the various other 12 states on there, and we signed on to that bill. So they are the lead state on this, and they are the litigation is filed in the Northern District of Florida, and the initial stages of the litigation will be staged there in the Northern District.
So this is important to Pennsylvanians. We're talking about a national issue, but how do you see this as affecting Pennsylvanians?
I think it affects all Americans. I think when the government says, the federal government passes a law that says you have to buy something, as I say, that's a bridge too far. They certainly have the ability to regulate commerce. That's under the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution. But this is more than regulating commerce. This is creating commerce. This is creating an activity. And if you look at the case law, I believe what it says is they can regulate activity, but nowhere does it say that they can create the activity. Now, the logical question that a lot of people ask, and I get it all over the state, well, then how come we have to buy car insurance? Well, there's a couple differences there. Number one, it's not the federal government requiring you to buy insurance. It's the state requiring you to buy insurance. And there are many people in this state that do not buy car insurance. They're not required to buy car insurance unless they own a car. And unless they are driving and have a driver's license.
So in the car example, that's voluntary.
That's
this
voluntary.
is involuntary.
That's exactly right. And people say, well, you have to have a car. Well, depending on where you live, you may have to have a car. But it's a provision to make sure that those people driving on the roads of Pennsylvania, driving on the roads of this country, have some type of insurance coverage to protect innocent people who may be in an accident and have not done anything wrong.
And when we find out with the budgets and the people that are upset with the fact that this law might be looked at and that it was just passed and that we should let this happen and that this is costing so much money, what's your answer to that?
Well, the first thing I hear, and as you have heard, many of my political opponents, both here in Harrisburg and around the state, have said, I'm against health care. I'm not against health care reform. We need health care reform. And if they were serious about health care reform, I would have seen somewhere in that bill something about tort reform. But we don't see anything about tort reform in that bill. But when they say, well, you're against health care reform and this is going to kill the bill, my retort is, you cannot have the ends justify the means. And in this case, you cannot violate the Constitution because the ends, health care reform, is a good idea. What they could have done, and they didn't, they chose not to do, is tell the states, if you want to continue to get Medicaid money, you have to pass a law requiring people to purchase some form of health insurance. That battle that occurred in Congress would then have been replicated in 50 states. Obviously, I believe that's why they didn't want to do that. They wanted one battle, one time in Congress. And as you know, it passed the House by, what, 3-4 votes. Very close issue. The real place is this needs to be resolved because there is a tremendous difference of opinion that whether this is constitutional or not needs to be in the branch of government that our founding fathers created to arbitrate, and that's the judiciary. And that's why we take it to court. The courts will make a decision whether we're correct or whether the Democrat majority in Congress is correct.
Well, if, for example, when the judiciary examines this bill, and if they find the provision of the bill that requires the purchase of health insurance to be unconstitutional, is it possible that they might find the rest of the bill to be constitutional, General?
Well, normally what happens in a bill, especially of this magnitude, there's a clause that's placed into the bill called severability, so that if exactly that happens, if the courts find that this were to be unconstitutional, you could take the scissors, cut it out, put it aside, and the rest of the bill would be constitutional.
Sounds like the judiciary has that sounds like a line item veto.
To a certain extent, it is. That is not the case in this bill. We have not found it. There have been a number of different AG's offices looking at this bill, and you know this bill is over 2,000 pages. And I challenge you to try and sit down at one reading, read these 2,000 pages of a bill like this, and you know what the legislation is like. But we have not found that there. There are some provisions where the court can fashion a remedy, but I don't know in a case like this that they're going to do that, because the net effect of a ruling from the court that you cannot require somebody to purchase insurance would be that the pool of money that the Congress is looking for of young people, healthy young people, that are going to end up paying for other people down the road who are older and who may have these needs is not going to exist. That, I believe, is the reason that they made this requirement that people have health insurance.
Well, people need to make decisions now. A lot of the provisions of this do come in, 2-3 years from now. But right now, everybody has to make decisions, especially if you're looking for a job to try to find somebody who will hire you, or if you're going to start your own business. This is a cloud hanging over their head, wondering, well, should I or shouldn't I? Which way should I go? What's the timeliness then of your case along with the other states? Is this going to be expedited? Will this be resolved this year? Or is this something that might take 2 years?